What if the strongest economy in history was never strong at all, just a carefully constructed illusion? What if the boom that many people celebrated was actually built on fragile foundations that were already cracking beneath the surface? That's the mystery Nobel Prize-winning economist Paul Krugman explores when discussing Donald Trump's economic policies, including during his interview on Buitenhof. And today we're going to unpack that mystery. Because Krugman argues that Trump's economic story isn't just about one presidency. It's about a repeating global pattern where political narratives overpower economic reality, and where the long-term cost is far greater than anyone expects. To understand Krugman's perspective, we need to look back at where the U.S. economy stood before Trump entered office. After the 2008 financial crash, the country spent nearly a decade recovering. It was slow, uneven, and frustrating. But by 2016, unemployment was falling, wages were improving, and the overall trend was upward. Then came Trump's promise. He would unleash growth like never before, rebuild manufacturing, and correct what he saw as unfair global trade relationships. The promise was dramatic, the rhetoric was aggressive, and the expectations were huge. But Krugman warned early on that the strategy behind these promises wasn't built on economic fundamentals, it was built on shortcuts. The story begins in 2017 with Trump's massive tax cut, one of the most ambitious in decades. Supporters claimed it would flood the economy with investment and raise wages. But Krugman pointed out a historical problem. Corporations rarely use tax savings to invest in long-term growth. Instead, they boost their stock prices. And that is exactly what happened. Companies spend hundreds of billions on stock buybacks, rewarding shareholders while the wage gains for ordinary workers remained modest. Yes, the markets hit record highs, but Krugman insisted this wasn't a sign of real strength. It was a sugar high, short, sweet, and destined to fade. Then came the tariffs. Trump launched a trade war with China, promising to protect American workers and bring factories back home. Krugman argued that this approach misunderstood how modern supply chains work. Tariffs didn't force companies to return, they raised costs for American manufacturers, hurt exporters, and pushed farmers into crisis. As China retaliated, U.S. agricultural sales collapsed in several key markets. Some farmers went bankrupt. Manufacturing output slowed. Yet the political narrative painted these moves as bold and necessary. The economy looked strong on the surface because markets were still responding to low interest rates and tax cuts. But in reality, structural weakness was widening. By 2019, the stress became visible. Business investment began to decline. Industrial regions slipped toward recession. Krugman repeatedly emphasized that these were not random events, they were the predictable outcome of short-term policy thinking. You cannot run a modern economy on tax cuts and tariffs. Growth requires long-term investment, global cooperation, and stability. And then came the shock that exposed everything, the 2020 pandemic. Krugman argued that while the crisis was global, the United States entered it with weakened foundations. The historic boom had not prepared the country for disruption. It had masked deeper vulnerabilities. After the pandemic hit, the numbers told a clearer story. Economic growth during the Trump years was not significantly faster than during the Obama recovery. Job creation slowed. Manufacturing did not return to its earlier strength. And most surprisingly, the trade deficit, the very issue the tariffs were supposed to fix, actually grew larger. Krugman described these outcomes as the natural result of policies designed for political appeal rather than economic resilience. A strong economy is built on productivity, innovation, and stability, not aggressive rhetoric and short-term boosts. Krugman also warns that the United States is not alone in this pattern. Around the world, governments fall into the same trap, selling economic optimism while ignoring structural problems. He highlights a shocking statistic. Some analyses show that up to 80% of benefits from large tax cuts go to the richest groups, while the bottom half of society sees little or no measurable gain. Yet these policies keep returning in different countries under different leaders because they create the illusion of growth, even when they fail to deliver real change. So what can viewers learn from this story? Krugman offers 3 powerful takeaways. First, short-term economic boosts often hide long-term weaknesses. What looks strong today may crumble tomorrow. Second, when political messaging replaces economic strategy, data gets ignored and the consequences always arrive eventually. Third, economies don't collapse suddenly. They weaken slowly until a single event exposes everything at once. The warning is clear. Societies must learn to distinguish political theater from real economic planning, or they will repeat the same mistakes again and again. If you want more in-depth breakdowns like this, where we cut through myths and reveal the real forces shaping the global economy, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. There's much more to uncover, and you won't want to miss what's coming next.